I'm Chimomo Mangazi with Business Time on Times. This is a magazine program where we bring you major business and economic news stories making headlines in the country. In today's program, Continental Holdings listing stimulates share trading on the Malawi Stock Exchange. Also in the program, Malawi Revenue Authority maintains that digital tax stamps have improved compliance and revenue collection. We have these and other stories. Stay tuned. Hello and welcome. Continental Holdings PLC shares surged by 75.47% on their first day of trading on the Malawi Stock Exchange on Monday, closing at 342 kwacha 17 tambala from the initial public offering price of 195 kwacha. The strong debut came as the company became the first new firm to list on the MSE since FDH Bank PLC in August 2020, ending a 6-year drought in new listings. According to the MSE Daily Market Performance Report for the day, 85,550 shares changed hands. However, by midday on Tuesday, the share price had dropped by 6.48% and was trading at 319 kwacha 99 tambala. We have more in this report.
The listing also helped push the Malawi All-Share Index, MAS, up by 7,824.76 points to 511,308.50 points, while the Domestic Share Index rising by 6,997.68 points to 379,770.82 points. Market turnover stood at 65.04 million kwacha from 73 deals, according to the Monday report. CHL has become the 17th listed counter on the Malawi Stock Exchange, increasing the number of companies available to investors and giving shareholders another investment option. Speaking at the official listing ceremony in Blantyre, MSE Chief Executive Officer John Kamanga described the listing as a historic milestone, saying it demonstrated confidence in the local capital market.
This listing has brought in lots of excitement. It has brought in lots of joy, above all also celebration, in the sense that you can actually see in terms of the reaction and the response from the general public. I would say this listing has been very much anchored by retail investors, because even during the first day or the first week of subscription, we saw a number of actual investors coming in. And today we have registered, as a result of this listing, as a result of this IPO, more than 10,000 shareholders coming in into the fold of CHL Limited, which means that the Malawi Stock Exchange has provided that platform of mobilizing resources from those who have actually excess, who can serve, for those who are in need of actually the resources. So basically, the stock market has acted as a bridge of bringing in the savers as well as actually those who are in need of capital. And we have seen that at least the 10,000 shareholders, they'll be part and parcel in terms of actual wealth creation, in terms of wealth distribution among Malawians. So to us, as a Malawi Stock Exchange, you know, one of the strategic pillars which we have is basically on market growth. When we mean market growth, we're looking at in terms of actually increasing number of listed companies on the Malawi Stock Exchange. That is basically on equity side, which are companies to be listed who are going to raise a capital through issuance of shares. But above all, we also have a platform for debt issuance. Those companies would like actually to issue bonds to the general public, either government or actually the state-owned enterprise. And then we have also the AJAX. These are catering for small and medium enterprise. So you can see that the Malawi Stock Exchange is an all-inclusive platform catering for large companies, state-owned enterprise, as well as small, medium enterprise.
Reserve Bank of Malawi Deputy Governor responsible for economics and regulation, Henry Matanga, said the listing was a major milestone after several years without a new company joining the market.
It speaks volumes on the confidence that the investors have on the Malawi Stock Exchange, but also the fact that they have confidence in the fact that they are well regulated, because you cannot trust your funds with an institution if you feel that that institution is not well regulated. So it's a pat on our back in terms of the regulations that we have on the market, and we are happy that this listing has taken place as a show of confidence in our regulatory framework that we have in place. And
Gibson Ngalamina is CHL board chairperson.
Invested in Malawi in 1998, and we've transformed over the years. We've got a number of subsidiaries, including an investment bank, asset management, stockbroking, properties, pension administration. So you can see that from that time up to now, we've been growing responsibly, and we're looking forward to the future with hope. So this is a very big milestone for us to finally be admitted on the main board of the Malawi Stock Exchange. It's a very, very exciting moment for us.
Investor and financial literacy advocate Purity Pascal Chitalo said CHL's strong debut was a welcome development for shareholders and the wider market.
Still staying with the stock market theme, the Malawi Stock Exchange has been urged to explore agriculture commodities trading as a way of expanding investment opportunities, supporting farmers and strengthening the country's capital market. Botswana Stock Exchange Market Development Specialist Kotla Segwe said Malawi could learn from Botswana, where agricultural commodities are now traded through the Botswana Mercantile Exchange. Segwe made the remarks on Friday during a business visit by 10 Malawian journalists to the BSE sponsored by National Bank of Malawi. He explains.
One of the things that we've been doing drastically as the Botswana Stock Exchange is for us to educate the private sector about the listings value proposition. So one of our flagship initiatives that we run as the Botswana Stock Exchange is the Botswana Stock Exchange TPD Mentorship Program. So essentially this program was first introduced back in 2019 when we introduced the SME Listing Board. So the way we conduct this program is conducted through a 3-month program with the ecosystem in terms of the registered advisors that are listed within the ecosystem of Botswana's capital markets. So what we facilitate at the Stock Exchange within that particular initiative is that we take through the different types of participants on the various aspects of listing a company on the Stock Exchange in terms of the process, and then of course we highlight all the benefits that entail listing onto the market. To date, we've mentored about 85 companies from various sectors of the economy, from tourism, manufacturing, medical services, education, as well as property. So as the Botswana Stock Exchange, the expectation is that we want to develop this strong pipeline of companies that come through the mentorship program that will ultimately list on the SME board for us to be able to increase the number of listings that we have on the BSE, have these companies scale up, and eventually come from the TPD SME board to eventually list on the BSE main board. Agricultural commodities are traded on the market through our subsidiary company, which is the Botswana Mercantile Exchange. The Botswana Mercantile Exchange was established in May 2025, and it's a company that facilitates commodities trading in Botswana. Currently, we only trade soft commodities, being maize and sorghum. It is facilitated through onboarding members within our system that avails an ecosystem of farmers coming through to the market to be able to sell their commodities, and having retailers that want access to these commodities for manufacturing, being able to tap into the commodities trading. So that is something that we're promoting across the country in terms of agriculture, stimulating agriculture production, as well as having farmers having an avenue outside of the Botswana Agricultural Marketing Board, being able to sell on the platform for them to be able to derive returns for their harvest. I think number one of the things that I want to highlight is the issue of collaboration and indeed partnerships. I think one of the things that we sort of overlook as securities exchanges is the power of collaboration in terms of stimulating dual listings within markets. We have low-hanging fruits in a sense that we have companies that are operating in one centralized market, but they forget that we have other markets that they can operate in to expand their business operations. So what stock exchanges like the BSE can do, as well as the stock exchange that is based in Malawi, is for us to be able able to collaborate, where we can have companies that are listed in Malawi looking towards expanding their markets, coming to do a list in Botswana, and also having businesses that are based in Botswana looking towards expanding their operations as well as do a listing in Malawi. So that is one of the key things that we're also trying to stimulate. Over and above that, we also need to look towards availing accessibility, or rather ease of penetration into the market. A lot of stock exchanges within the region don't have listing boards with less stringent requirements. We need to make sure that we have platforms whereby it makes ease of listing securities from an SME perspective relatively easy for them to be able to scale up. Outside of that, we need to look at issues surrounding support from the ecosystem. Like one of the things that I did highlight is that we continually advance education, but you have education that is being driven without support from the market. So when you look at your regional institutional investors, they tend to also want to invest their pool of funds into certain type of enterprises. So we need to have these conversations with them so that they're able to look at a grassroots level for them to be able to support these enterprises. Also, we also need to look at aspects of private equity. I think we tend to work in isolations of stock exchanges, whereby we tend to want to get companies to formalize, corporatize, and list. But private equity needs to work hand in hand with public markets. Private equity, they come and they support enterprises by scaling up investing, getting them to a certain level, and then disinvesting. That is where, as public markets, we need to come in. So I feel that that relationship also needs to be a part and parcel of the ecosystem for us to be able to stimulate those listings. The innovation in itself is just constant dialogue. That is what we just need to do. I constantly say that the market is an ecosystem. Not only at a stock exchange level, we have different participants that make up the market. We have the capital that is sitting with the pension funds. You have the government that deals with legislation. So I think it's very imperative for us as the ecosystem to continually have these conversations to sort of see how we can ease penetration into the market for all the different participants that need to benefit.
And National Bank of Malawi Marketing and Corporate Affairs Manager Akosa Mpepo Hiwa says the tour was aimed at strengthening the bank's relationship with journalists while exposing them to economic development approaches.
As National Bank of Malawi, the Bank of the Nation, we have a very great relationship with journalists in Malawi because we realize that everything that we do, one of the key platforms of getting those things out there, both locally and internationally, is through our journalists. And we have scheduled or worked through this tour, which is a learning experience here in Botswana, to give our 10 journalists here an experience of the economy, a learning tour of economy development, and to also enjoy themselves here in Botswana. We know that learning is consistent, it never stops, and the only constant is change, which is why we thought that we should come out of Malawi and step into a different land to see how things are done and to see how economic growth is being structured here in Botswana. Let me say that this is a 2-day trip, and within the 2-day trip, a lot of things have happened. Key of this was a learning trip and experience to the Botswana Stock Exchange, where our journalists, as well as the team from National Bank of Malawi, gained valuable insights. We've also had some downtime where we experienced a cultural village, but also went to a few monuments within the city, and we've been able to engage with the journalists and get from them perspectives that maybe we do not get when we're on the ground back in the office and we have events going on. So this has been very valuable, and we hope to continue with such learning trips. I should add that we have business journalists here, but we do work with a diverse range of them, and we do engage with journalists in different spheres, in different opportunities, and we look forward to enhancing these relationships going forward.
This is Business Time on Times. We'll be right back. Welcome back. The Malawi Revenue Authority, MRA, says 2 years after the introduction of the Kalondola tax stamp system, There has been an improvement in tax compliance and revenue collection. MRA Head of Corporate Affairs, Wilma Chalulu, says some manufacturers recorded excise tax revenue increases of up to 200%, resulting in over 56 billion kwacha local excise collection in the first quarter of 2026. Benedetta Chuandamia reports.
The Kalondola Excise Tax Stamps Initiative was introduced in 2024, designed to promote voluntary tax compliance, optimize revenue collection, and curb illicit trade, including counterfeit products, and under declaration of exercisable goods through real-time product tracking. Speaking during a media engagement in Blantyre, MRA Head of Corporate Affairs Wilma Chalulu said the authority is now able to see right on the production line what products have been manufactured, and the excise tax is accounted for using automation, a development that has significantly contributed to the tax revenue base.
The Kalondola's tax system is just about the accountability of excise stamps or excise tax. So today we just took the media through just what Kalondola is all about. What is excise stamps? Why is it important? And then we also wanted the media to appreciate how the process of the excise application is at one of the manufacturers. Kalondola has contributed significantly to revenues. I think on the individual manufacturers, we have seen substantial increases. Some have even improved by 100%, some by about 200%. So this is quite significant, because now that we are now able to see right on the product line what products have come through, and the excise is accounted for right there and then. So this has really contributed to our tax revenue base. On our behalf as well as MRA, we've got enforcement teams that go to check and enforce to see that legitimate stamps are on the market. And also what I can also add is that even the taxpayers, even the consumers themselves can verify. They can be the ones that can take account of the tax stamps that are out there. There's an app that we have, it's called Kalondola 365. So it's also very important that the taxpayers themselves take responsibility to ensure that they check that the tax stamps that are out there are really what they should be. Because what I can say is it would not be necessary that they're fake stamps, but you just need to make sure that the stamps that are there, first of all, are on the right product. That's what they'll need to check for. When as a consumer, if you scan the product, you will be able to know, one, that the product is genuine. It is what it says that it is, because that's one of the reasons why we introduced the Kalondola, because we need to ensure that there's no counterfeit products on the market, there are no illicit products on the market. So the Kalondola tax stamps will be able to ensure, to tell the customer that it is a genuine product, it is by the right company. So what I can say is that in terms of tax stamps out there, we as our partner SIGPA does ensure that there are genuine stamps that are out there on the market. The Kalondola tax regime does not just apply to local manufacturers, it also applies to importers, local importers. So as they're importing the goods at the border, those products that are supposed to be accessible are supposed to have tax stamps. So on that regard, we also as MRA do enforce this. All local importers are supposed to apply tax stamps on the imported products, and we also enforce the same way as we do with the local manufacturers. We also monitor. We scan the tax stamps to ensure that they're genuine and that they are being applied to the right products.
In the first quarter of the 2026-2027 financial year, covering April to June, MRA collected 56.8 billion kwacha in local excise tax against a target of 53.7 billion kwacha, representing a 106% performance. Mineral import tax also overperformed during the quarter, with MRA collecting over 88.1 billion kwacha, surpassing its quarterly target by over 7 billion kwacha. Despite the gains, some local manufacturers have been raising concerns over the continued circulation of counterfeit tax stamps and smuggled products, particularly alcoholic beverages sold without tax stamps. A situation they say undermines compliant local manufacturers by making illicit products more competitive. Gloria Zimba is the president of the Manufacturers Association of Malawi.
It has been 2 years since the government introduced the digital tax stamp, which is famously known as the DTS, digital tax stamp. Your question is pertinent to say what has been the performance of the manufacturing sector the first 7 months of the year 2026. We didn't start well, and we didn't close 2025 at a good note. A lot of companies were in the negative when you compare to how much they sold and how much revenue they were able to make in the previous year. Most companies, when you check them, they were ranging between -20 to -45% over last year. So we can say the sector is shrinking in terms of performance. However, we've seen a bit of stabilization between June and July, probably because of the harvest season and probably because of the tobacco. But we didn't have much excitement in terms of peak, because these months normally, when you look at the 3 years ago or 4 years ago, you have this trend where we normally peak from end of April, May, June, because of the harvest period and because of the tobacco period. So you can actually see the spike, and then it drops again off season. This year there is no season. You talk to any manufacturer, they will tell you there is no season. You know, it's like a flat line. But that flat line is negative versus how much we sold and how much revenue we made last year. We need to look at all the relevant tangents of the economy. So the first tangent is the cost of doing business. So from late 2024, 2025 to 2026, cost of doing business has been rising, from fuel, from levels of water, electricity, even labor cost itself. It's just a few months ago when maize dropped, but the food inflation was also very high. So the Malawi economy is mainly driven by food inflation. When food goes up, everything goes up. Although food has dropped a bit, but Malawi still remains hyperinflation country. There's a lot of instability in terms of our inflation. Over and above that, bank rates, although they reduced by 2% 2 months ago, but we are still very high, because when you add the base plus lending rate, you find that cost of borrowing from the bank still remains between 25 to 30%. So for a manufacturer to go and borrow from commercial banks, working capital is still very expensive. And when they are only selling 30% less than the previous year, it's also difficult for them to formally or properly pay back that bank loan. Over and above that, government also adjusted upwards some taxes. VAT is now 17.5%, and some taxes were added. So that has added on to the cost of doing business. We are talking about the tax stamp. Initially, in 2024, when the MRA was introducing the tax stamp, we had a meeting. And in that meeting, our main worry as manufacturers was the cost of the stamp, because government was not taking away excise tax. Excise tax would still remain. But over and above that, we were worried about the cost of the stamp. And at that time, we were assured that there would be no additional cost. The same operating cost that we were incurring before the introduction of the tax stamp, they said it would be the same. But as time went, as we started implementing and installing the tax affixing machines on our production lines, we realized that there was that cost of affixing machines along our production lines. There was a cost that would come in with downtime hours, because the machine is affixed along that same production, your batch production line. This tax affixing machine is part of your batch production. So when this machine is on breakdown, you can't run your machine. You need to stop and call SICPA technician. Sometimes the SICPA technician is within your premises, but at times the breakdown is bigger. They will wait for support from somewhere. So during that period, the downtime hours, we haven't agreed and we haven't resolved up to now to say who bears that cost. Because your line is okay as a manufacturer, but you've got this breakdown because of the SICPA machine.
MRA contracted technical firm SICPA Malawi, a subsidiary of the Switzerland-based SICPA SA, to supply the tax stamps. The company has since installed 22 stamp applicator machines at 14 manufacturing sites, covering all manufacturers producing exercisable goods in the country.
Well, with that story, we've come to the end of today's edition of Business Time here on Times Television. It is a magazine program where we bring you major business and economic news stories making headlines in the country. On behalf of the entire production team, I am Chumwe Mangazi. But always remember, if it doesn't make money, it doesn't make sense. Bye for now.